You're about to get the cheat code that teaches thousands of students how to design packaging in this 30-minute video. My name is Avilio Matos, and I've designed packaging for some of the world's biggest brands, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can get started designing packaging the way the pros do. By the end of this video, you're going to be able to lay out your next packaging design on your own, digitally in Sketch, whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. Plus, you're also going to improve your understanding of design principles, messaging hierarchy, visual flow, practical application, and you're going to boost your creativity. But before we get started, do me a favor. Instead of selling this as a course, I'm asking you to pay for this class by just hitting subscribe, clicking the bell, and leaving a comment down below if you're just starting to design packaging. Deal? Done. Let's go. First off, what product you choose at this point doesn't matter because you're just learning. The first thing you want to do is you want to understand is how to break up the flat plane of a box. I chose a box because there's bottles and bags, all these different complex shapes. But that doesn't matter. We want to start with a box because it's the simplest thing. What's great about them is that they're easy to convert from 2D to 3D in our minds and on screen. Now, when I say in our minds, if you're measuring something out and you've put dimensions on it and it's flat, how are you going to make that real? It's pretty easy to go from a flat sketch to an actual design. But if you're doing a bottle, you have a lot more difficulty. So that's why we're starting with a box. What we're going to do is we're going to follow Austin Kleon's advice and steal like an artist and show your work. I hate when people say good artists copy and great artists steal, because the truth is great artists learn. They learn from what works, what doesn't work, and they find inspiration from the things around them. They don't necessarily steal. If you're stealing, that sucks. What we're going to do is we're going to download an image. We're going to copy the layout. We're going to determine where the grid is, why they made some of the choices they did, get a sense of proportion, messaging. We're then going to create a template, adapt it to another product, and see how it translates. Then we're going to try to make some adjustments and see what looks better. It's a good way to start stretching those muscles of designing. So first step is pick a box. It can be food, it can be tech, beauty, whatever you are into, pick that. It can be an album, it doesn't matter. Go to Google, copy that image, drop it into Illustrator. For me, I took this image of CVS's latest packaging design for Well Market. It's their Better For You house brand. House brand is a brand that's owned by the company. It's owned by CVS. This is going to all their stores, and it's going to compete with some of the bigger players in different snack areas and food areas. So choosing a house brand actually starts you off with a well-organized grid that has to apply across all these different sections, because you know there's going to be some kind of a system. Step 2, we're going to reveal the grid. I'm going to take this. I'm going to make a rectangle in Illustrator, and then I'm going to copy it. Typically, this type of pack is going to be done in quarters. So I'm going to make 4 rectangles just to check. And it looks like I'm pretty much dead on with this. What I've done is I've made these 4 rectangles, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we can see where everything lands and where everything falls. If we're looking, this Well Market logo is in this dividing line between the first and the second quarter. Chocolate chip, the flavor is in the middle of the box. The cookies, they're sitting on a plane right at about the third and fourth quarter. And then all the other information is centered kind of in this section. Now, it's never going to be perfect, right? When you build a grid, you're kind of building a foundation. It's your starting point. So if we look at this and we split it this way, vertically, you can see everything is aligned down the middle. This little guy that divides the copy, the 2 columns, is off to the side a little bit. But we can kind of see, maybe it's the way that I copied this, the way that I pasted it in here, it's probably dead center. I don't know, but we're going to work just the same way. Now, there's an old-fashioned way to create this kind of grid, and you had to do some dynamic lines, which is similar to this, where you went from corner to corner, and everywhere that the lines intersected, that's where critical components went. And then you just kept splitting this thing up over and over and over again. And what ends up happening is you end up with, these basically the same 4 quarters that I have here. And you just keep going and going and going. And anywhere that the lines hit, overlapped, that's where you put the most of your attention to. That's where your critical pieces are going to go. But that's the old way to do it. This is so much faster and so much easier. Remember, grids are just guides. You're going to push up against them. Sometimes you're going to step over them, but there's not like one hard and fast rule. This is just a good way to get started, right? So now we going to have an idea of what this grid looks like. If we want, we can split this down just a little bit further, kind of like the example I was showing of the old way to do it. We're just going to take this and just kind of split these guys. I don't necessarily want to go all the way across. It just helps me see both halves. Right, you can see where things start to fall. Now this guy's up a little bit higher, but I bet you if I split this guy down the middle, and this guy, I mean this tall rectangle here, it's probably going to be, yeah, look at that. It's right on line with that. So you can see how they've kind of divided this copy up. And I think it's the same thing. If we went down this way, it'll be, you know, somewhere aligned to that section. On left and right, I don't necessarily split that up very much, but we can. You know, if we're looking at the middle of these rectangles, looks like right about here. And then same thing with these guys. All right, so now you've got a good section. And look, this well market fits right in the middle section between Q2 and Q3. So basically it takes up half of the box, right? You got 2 quarters, it's half. So that's getting a good sense of like, wow, here's how you lay out a box. This is exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about learning. This is why we're copying, because this is going to help you understand how everything goes together. Now we're ready for step 3, Element Explorer. Here's where we're going to recreate the elements on the pack, and we're going to place them over them on the original design. We're going to be able to see where things fit, why they made some of these decisions, and then we're going to kind of push those around and make them our own. But before you feel like this is a pointless exercise and you're just copying, remember, if you wanted to learn how to play the guitar,
You want to learn how to play guitar?
you're going to start by playing an easy song like Happy Birthday. You didn't write it, you're just copying it. But you do this a few times a week, a couple times a day, learn how to play these different little easy songs. And after you know it, in a month, you've learned how to mix and match notes to make your own songs. And it's kind of the same thing here. It's exactly what we're doing. We're copying to learn and to get comfortable moving the elements around the page. But then we're also going to take that design and we're going to take it apart. We're going to play with editing and creating your own version with your own reasoning behind it. So let's take a look at this design before we start recreating it. We've already noticed that the logo fits right in the middle here. This chocolate chip flavor section fits right in there as well. We've got everything kind of split in this vertical grid that's happening. So we know that there's a grid happening. Then there's also, if we kind of like split these little sections again, you can kind of see where the color blocking is taking place. Color blocking on this pack is like right about here. And if we take that and copy that up, you know, it's not quite broken into thirds, but it's pretty dang close. So now you know this bottom third section is going to be a white color, and then the background is going to be another color, some kind of a gradient from light to dark. Right? These are the simple things that we're going to say. Logo is centered, the flavor is centered, vertically, information is set into an easy to follow grid with those 2 columns down here. Right, so you've got the left half and the right half, and you've got those center stacked. So super, super easy to read. It's a great, easy to follow system. Right, so if this was an ice cream, you would see ice cream in this section, flavor here. This doesn't change other than it will tell you it's cookies versus ice cream, and then some information about the product. Like super simple, makes it so that you can change products easily and work within this same system. Now, color here is really key to communication as it's going to tie into the flavor. You can see like the chocolate chip color, the background behind chocolate chip is the same color as the lines, these little lines here. And then it's also the same color as the net weight, line on gluten-free. The copy color here is like a blackish color. That's all the rest of this type. So all these little things start connecting. When you start developing your own packaging, it's the same thing. You've got to have a connection. It's not just randomized colors. And then you can see these easy to copy strategies that help you build powerful systems that can expand as you grow. And like I said, this could be cookies, ice cream, it could be whiskey.
Drinking whiskey and rye.
It doesn't matter. It's going to be the same system. The product photos have a little bit of this little flair, these little illustrations happening there. I feel like it's a throwback to 2011. Safeway had like the first real designed own brand. It was called the Snack Artist. And they designed their packaging to compete against the big boys. And this stuff here had like a lot of flair and flavor to the packaging, but you still knew that it was an own brand by Safeway. So I think, this kind of feels a little bit like that. It's like a little nod to that original story behind own brand cachet. So we've done this. We've looked at all the different pieces where everything kind of fits. Now we're going to go ahead and drop everything in here. So for example, we're going to drop this logo in. Now, where did I get this logo? I took this image and I did a live trace in Illustrator. I got a higher res version of it off the web, brought it into Illustrator. And then, if you click on an image, you've got this image trace here up at the top. You get this window and you can adjust. Now I've done this for the background and that's not what I'm doing, but that's what we did for the logo. So you got a nice little vector logo happening here. Then we've got this gluten-free cookies. So let's go ahead and type this out. Gluten-free. So this typeface there's a couple kind of like, it's kind of like this one, Articulate CF. We're gonna make this bold. It's not perfect. It doesn't have to be, right? Because we're not here to match font types. We're just here to kind of get a good sense of what this layout is going to be. So we're placing this over the top of this. It's a little bit larger. We could probably make this a little bit smaller. Space these guys out a little bit. Track these out here. And sometimes you track out copy to make it a little bit more legible from a distance. And if we're thinking of who this consumer is at CVS, you're probably going to get an older consumer that's looking for an own brand product that's going to be better for you. It's gluten-free, maybe has less sugar, has more fiber, the things that you're not typically looking for in junk food cookies. So if it is for an older audience, tracking that out is going to give you a little bit better visibility and legibility. Then we've got cookies. Looks like it's the same font. All right, and we're going to go ahead and bring this guy up and probably track it down a little bit. All right, and I'm just moving through these guys pretty quickly. There'd be more refinement if this was an actual design. You can kind of see how this, oh, look at that. I made a total mistake. This is not in caps. All right, so that makes a big difference. And instead of going to the arrow, you can actually just, if you're typing, you can just hit escape. That moves a little bit faster. But I like for you to see where I'm moving and what I'm doing. So we've got cookies, gluten-free. This is actually pretty close. And then we've got chocolate chip. Perfect. Now we're going to drop this color behind it. And, there's a couple different ways to do it. This is just fast for me. I'm going to throw that behind there and I'm going to make this copy. So just going to wireframe in Illustrator is just Command Y. I'm bringing this to the front. And then I'm going to make that copy white. And I'm just putting all the chunks in here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and type all this stuff out and then we'll jump right back in. All right, so you can see we've created everything that was on the box. We've got everything in vector. I'll throw this in wireframe. You can see everything's put together. The cookies are still the ones that are on the image that from the box itself. I'm going to go ahead and just recreate some cookies, different flavor, doesn't matter, to put on here just to kind of show like what that would look like. These little bugs up here, I'm going to go online and just type in some serving icons. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and paste those here. I got some from, I don't know, must have been something a little fatter than these are. You can see the text isn't perfect, but it doesn't matter. I don't care about the information. It's just about all the components fitting in here. I also don't have the lines that go underneath these things. All right, so we've got this line here. I'm sure there's a reason for that size. There's definitely a reason for the color, which is it ties into this color of the flavor. Bring this down here. Probably make that a little thicker too. I've got this at 1 point. And we'll probably make that 2. Here, we'll just make that 2. So that's a little bit heavier, right? We can have the edges, we can make it round. It doesn't matter. Again, we're just putting all these pieces together here just to get a sense of where things can go. Okay, so now that we've got all the different pieces in here, we're going to go ahead and drop these cookies in. These are cookies off of Midjourney. Now, when you're showing product, now here's a quick tip. When you're showing product, typically don't want to show two of the whatever item is, right? If you got cookies, you don't want to show two. You want to show 3, 5, 7. You want to have an odd number and have all of them showing, some a little bit hidden, but it gives you a little bit more movement in the design. If we take a look at this original design, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's like a partial piece here, and then you kind of balance it off with that chocolate on the back end. But it's 5 main components. We've got these. Again, this is just Midjourney created these images. Now, this doesn't necessarily look like a chocolate chip. It's probably like a dark chocolate chunk, which is cool. I personally like dark chocolate. All right, so here we go. I'm going to get rid of this. Now what we've got is basically the same layout that we had in the original design, right? We've got your well market, gluten-free, cookies, chocolate chip. We've got some pictures of cookies here as well. Good source of protein, net weight. This is actually in the wrong color. It should be that. So you can see how everything works together. So now we're going to put our own little spin to this design. We've pretty much matched it. We don't have these little icons here, these little whooshes of movement or thinking or a little fart. I don't know what that is. But we don't have that. That's fine. Again, you've got the layout. You put this over the top of the other one. It's exactly the same, minus some fine details on the text. So now, how are you going to put your spin on it? Before I get started on changing this up a little bit and playing with it, there's no disrespect to the team that worked on this. I'm sure they spent months developing it. They had meeting after meeting. There were stakeholders. There was presentation after presentation. And we're not bound by any of those directives, goals, or strategies. We're just going to play. We're going to find our own groove. We're going to design the pack for ourselves. What would make us buy this product? Does it need to stand out? Do we want it to communicate one thing over another? Whatever you want. Now you've got all the components that a professional design team put together, whether it was an agency, an in-house team, doesn't matter. These guys know what they're doing. They built a system that works. It's going to be hopefully 99% unbreakable. There'll be 1 or 2 areas where it's not going to be able to work for every single product. But man, when you got a system that's this tight, you can do anything you want and you're not going to break it. So now you can do whatever you want. And CVS team, you guys did awesome. All right, so first things first, we're going to take a look at the actual pack itself. Now read it. Read it for yourself. What do we have here? We've got gluten-free, well market, serving size, details. This you can't get rid of. Gluten-free cookies. Well, it says gluten-free here and it says gluten-free here. It can only be gluten-free once. So we can get rid of one of these guys. That we don't need then anymore. We've kind of simplified it. That little change made it simpler. It still says gluten-free. So I think we're good. Again, this is not chocolate chip. These are chocolate chunk. So we'll call it, we'll just call it chocolate chunk. Perfect. And if it's chocolate chunk, then maybe it's not this color. Maybe it needs to be a little bit darker. Yeah, we don't want it to be so dark that it looks like this black. So we kind of pull back a little bit on this. But it needs to be a little different than the chocolate chip. So we've already made some slight change. We've got a little bit larger space up here, so maybe we can make this a little bit bigger. All right, so now it's kind of standing out. Let's get rid of this guide so we can just compare to the original. All right, you can see there's definitely a difference happening here. This stands out a little bit more. We cleared up some space up in the top left. We could have gotten rid of gluten-free down here. That could work also. So what are we trying to communicate with this box? Brand, well market, gluten-free cookies, right? If we got rid of gluten-free and cookies, this could be a box of cookie mix. This could be a box of anything having to do with cookies because you got cookies on there. So what else can you do? So now here's how you start playing. You take this, you shift it over. I personally like dark chocolate. So Dark chocolate, one of the things with dark chocolate, if you look at different brands, whether it's Dove, Hershey's, you name it, Cadbury, they do dark chocolate differently, each one of those guys. So for me, I love like a nice, kind of purplish color for dark chocolate. That communicates dark chocolate to me, and it has like a sense of royalty to it. So it elevates it. And with dark chocolate, people feel that dark chocolate is going to be something that's a little bit healthier. So it is kind of in line with that better for you feel. All right, so we kind of fine tune that. I'm going to go in here and adjust kind of where these colors sit. These cookies, I think, can definitely be larger. Now, as we start playing, some of these elements we can move, get them out of the way, so we can play. Make this possibly larger. Might be interesting if we have cookies kind of spilling from one box to the next. So we can take and make like a mask. All right. And what I'm saying is, like, if you have a bunch of product on shelf, it starts to look like you have a row of cookies. So the boxes start coming together and having one key message. It's not necessarily better. They may not have done this for a reason. They don't want to confuse the consumer. Who knows? I wasn't there, not part of the strategy. We're just making this up as we go along for ourselves. And I kind of like a big product, right? And we'll keep kind of fine tuning these things. We'll move stuff around. Good source of protein. That could potentially go up at the top here. Excellent source of fiber. That can probably fit up here as well. Serving suggestion on the product. These are not to scale or whatever they say on those. We could move this over to the side here. This, being on the side could probably align with this one. So we keep the same general sense of the grid. But what I'm saying is you keep playing, you keep moving around, you keep duplicating, testing, squeezing, squishing, pulling, moving, and you start playing with color. Maybe cookies is white, right? Does that take a little bit too much from the logo? So maybe we keep that black. Maybe one of these pieces of text are in white. Since they're up in the top left, they no longer have to be center stacked. We can go ahead and put those and left justify those. Excellent source of fiber. I don't know how much I care about that in particular. Maybe I care about the amount of fiber, right? So maybe it's like, 5 grams of fiber in every cookie or something like that. I don't know. You kind of play around with it. Nobody's going to buy this because you're just making it for yourself and you're kind of just testing. You're just playing. So have a good time. Do we need to have a bigger logo? How do we make the logo bigger still? Do we bring that down? Do these cookies come further down? Do we make them a little bit smaller? Do we really need gluten-free and cookies on 2 different lines? Could they be on the same line? Right? And that saves us a little bit of space. So now we've got a bigger logo. Give yourself some breathing room from there. Make sure it's centered. And you're just playing. You're making this messy. You're getting your hands dirty, testing out a few different things. What works, what doesn't. Again, do we want to have this kind of bleeding off a little bit? What you don't want for sure is you don't want to have a product just along the edge of the design, because that can create an uncomfortable tension. It's like a mistake. So it's either far away or overlapping, never just on there. And that's for photography, for design. You want to make sure you follow that rule. But here's a couple options of what we ended up with. You let me know what you think. I want to know in the comments if this works for you. Do me a favor, do this once a week, pick a different product, go through the same exact process. Every time you do this, you're going to improve a little bit better. You're going to feel a little bit more comfortable moving things around. Because you've done this, you're going to have so much more clarity the next time you have to design a pack. My name is Velio. I'll see you next time.